Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today. We're here with Tim Fitzgerald, who's going to tell us about his new project. You did a West thing. You're doing a West thing. You're just releasing a West
Yeah,
thing. And I want you to talk about that. But before I do,
sure.
you've been on the Chicago scene a long time.
Yeah, it's funny how fast it goes, but yeah, it's been
Yeah,
a
you
couple decades now.
and and just to let you know, I was listening to you play. I was watching a bunch of YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. You're playing a 175,
Yep.
which is I think it's pretty cool. I think it's really pretty cool.
Oh,
And those are some pretty thick. There's at least 12s, aren't they?
13s, and
13s.
I'm a person who's kind of slow to change, so I
Yeah.
was 14s for forever, and I had the idea that I should go to 13s, and it took me about 5 years to decide to go to
Would you
13.
like one string at a time?
No, I actually it just I had to
Oh,
think
okay.
about
I'm
it.
gonna play a 13 on a 14 set for 1 year, and then I'm gonna add the B string next year. It took
Well,
a
you know,
while. You don't spend a lot of money on strings that way. You can 6 years to set aside strings. It's great.
well, I was just staying so much. It's just so hard because like, you get used to something, and I want like even that guitar. I bought it in it's a 1981, which is kind
Hmm.
of a quirky year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got
it
some,
is.
but I bought it in 91, and it's been my main act since then. So that's I mean, how many decades is that?
Well, the two things that jumped out at me, and then I want you to talk about your record.
Oh, sure.
The two things that jumped out at me is one is your connection to your instrument,
Mm.
which is really obvious, and also, I don't use this word too often, but you have complete command over that thing. You 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 really
Wow.
do. Yeah, you've got complete command over it. And I don't say that. I mean, that's not a word that comes out of my
Wow.
mouth very often when I talk about. But man, you have got that thing down. And I'll tell you, in your playing, the only guy that I've heard that makes the drummer crazy because he's really driving he's with your single note playing, you're driving the rhythm. You're probably driving your drummer nuts because the only
That's great.
the only other guy that is on top of the beat ever that I've ever heard play like what I've witnessed you play is the great Pat Martino.
Oh my gosh.
Now, if
I
you ever
mean,
saw Pat play live,
I
he used
did. Yeah.
he used a 412 cabinet. And so and I asked him about that. I said, excuse my expression, Pat, what the F are you doing with a four? We're in a 40-seat room. He's got I can't remember the top he was using, like a Clara. It was one of the tops, the solid state top, this
Yeah.
big on top of this 412 can.
Hmm.
And man, I mean, it was like he was like every note he played was like a kick drum with pitch. I mean, it was boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. And you're so far on top of the beat, when you're playing, and in a good way. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you just command it. Zach, you got to be quiet, buddy. You just command it. So I'm a fan. I like what you're doing. I really like what you're doing. That being said,
Well,
tell us about your new project.
oh my gosh. Well, there's first of all, just thank you. That's some of the nice. That's just really thoughtful and considerate. I really appreciate what you said. I'm humbled to be even shouldn't be mentioned with those masters. I actually heard. I remember hearing Pat at the his comeback, and I knew it was a special one of the comeback shows of the weekend at the bottom line in New York, and I knew it was a special night when I looked to the bar and I saw Mr. George Benson, and I know if he's there, who's one of absolutely one of my all-time heroes and inspirations. To see them both, to be
Me
just
too.
both in their presence in the same room was really incredible. On the record, you mentioned the drums. It's George Flutis is on the record. He's really a wonderful drummer. You probably know him, but in case you don't, he did years with Ray Brown. He's always been based in Chicago, but he managed to play with Cedar Walton and on and on. Just like an incredible list of. And he was the regular guy for Ray.
Hmm.
When I heard Ray Brown do a clinic here in Chicago, he said a lot of things that are very memorable, including, "I get paid to rush," and I was like, "Yes, that's it." It's amazing. And Ray, it's just it's perfect. Where he puts it is perfect, and where George puts it is perfect. And
Hmm.
I try and ride the wave of what they're putting forward. And
the,
it's and
the
yes,
yeah, the crust of it.
oh
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that is the danger of getting too far in front. It's been known to happen, but But those are
Well,
the
but I didn't hear it, and and it's very exciting for the listener. I mean, it's very exciting for the listener to hear it because excuse my expression, but your ass is hanging out there.
it really is.
You
Thank you.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and when you play like that, I mean, you're exposing yourself. Like, if you hang behind the beat, listen, I love guys that hang behind the beat too. It's just a different thing,
Right.
and especially in blues, of course, but when you're riding that crest,
Yeah.
and you're like falling over the crest of the wave, and then the wave comes like right after you, man. You're
Yeah.
hanging out there,
We're
you're
out there.
hanging.
I mean, yeah, it is something, it's funny that my dear friend and mentor, Rodney Jones, says, when it comes to, he says, I want to get this right. He says, when boats are safe in a harbor,
Mhm.
but boats are meant to sail the seas. Something like that. Forgive me if
Yeah,
I
no, that's
make
I,
it. And I feel that because it can be scary for sure especially to go for things, just to go for it.
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the beauties for me of this project was getting a chance actually to go for it. And there's it's tape. I could do it again. It
Yeah.
wasn't a live recording. Hey, let's try it again. Go for it and try it again. And that's one of the beauty. I mean,
Well, I listened
very
to
important to
a
me.
whole bunch of the tracks, because they were kind enough to send me, the tracks, those whole bunch of tracks. And while you're doing tunes like 4 on 6 and all of that, the West staples, you definitely put something different on it. You didn't cover the tune,
That's the idea. That's the
Yeah,
goal.
especially in
Because
the phrase,
oh,
especially the phrasing of the theme,
oh
the
yeah,
melody. That was
oh
pretty
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah, that was pretty
Well,
cool.
well, yeah, certainly. I mean, a cover band of West would be fine. I don't begrudge anyone for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing music. I love to hear it. But when it's going for something a little different than that, we were really trying
Yeah,
to use it as a launching point. When
yeah,
it kind of, I think I called it at one point. I called it it's a love letter to Wes. I would want him to hear this and love it and feel how much we love him.
mm-hmm.
But also, we're not interested in just imitating him. I mean, first of all, I can't, as much as I've studied Wes very hard for many years,
Yeah,
and I can't sound like him. I mean, even if I devote my life to it, which is, so I'm not even interested in that. Of course, I want him in me. I want his music, and I want
right.
to take it and launch somewhere else. That's the ultimate goal, is to use it as both a love letter and also something that reaches forward. But I think that's true for a lot of musicians in general, for all of us. It's part of our quest.
Well, the big catchphrase and overused a lot, but is standing on shoulders.
Oh yeah,
Not standing behind shoulders.
right. Well said.
You're standing on the shoulders. You're taking, and whether you deserve it or not, where any of us deserve it or not, you're standing on the shoulders, and if they weren't there, then
Certainly.
if they weren't there to have their shoulders to stand on, you'd be down below them somewhere. So, but
Well, yeah.
I'm making this all up as I go along, Tim. I haven't figured
Oh,
that out.
no problem.
But I'm improvising. It's jazz, man. It's jazz. So tell us a little bit specifically. All right, the first
Sure.
question is this: why Wes?
Right.
In 1 minute or less.
Okay. Well, it really, it's funny. I loved Wes from, I think the first record I had was a double record reissue of it was The Incredible Jazz Guitar of Wes and So Much Guitar. I was on a 2 record, and just from the needle drop, from the first needle, I just loved them so much.
Right.
But I don't know if you had this this was the late, I'm not even sure, late 80s. We're passing around videotapes like of Jazz, and it was a video of Wes playing on the show
Right.
Jazz 625.
Yeah.
Of course, it had been reproduced 300 times and it was grainy.
Right.
But when I saw that, it was done. It was over. He was already my favorite just from the record.
Right.
But when I saw the ease and the
Mhm.
warmth, and when he would play the baddest shit you ever seen and smile and look over and say, "Oh, you hear that?
Yeah,
Did you hear that?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
or someone or Harold Mabern play something good. He looks at it and smiles. It's like, this is it. This is everything I love
Right.
about life right there. It's just the connection and the warmth and the badassery. So, and that started young for me. So
Yeah.
he was big for me very young. So I guess that's why Wes.
Mhm.
Quite a while after that, I was thinking about that video, like a decade later, and it's like, boy, it's too bad no one ever transcribed that. I thought, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, why don't I do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. I spent a couple years with that 40 minutes of tape, and it became a book called 625 Alive, the Wes
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery BBC Performance Transcribers. I think that's it, 625 Alive. And I put that out and got some nice awards. Got awarded 50 greatest guitar books. Someone
Mm.
gave me that, which I thought was wonderful in his book. And it was really surprising, honestly, spending all that time with Wes, because a lot of his physicality surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
I had studied previously, I'd mentioned Rodney Jones. Rodney really got me on the path of Wes's physicality, like what was going on with the thumb, the downstrokes, the fingerings, the 3-finger technique, the 2-finger technique. And then one thing that really surprised me about spending all that time with the video were some of the fingerings. So it was like running up the B string or doing things that were completely inefficient or out of, things
Right.
that he would play a sequence, you would expect him just to play down a whole step, but instead he would shift. Even if the notes were sequential, he would shift the positions.
I studied jazz guitar at Georgia State University as a elder statesman, as it were, and so part of the curriculum was to transcribe, and of course I transcribed some West tunes. And what became really apparent to me quickly is that he played shit that nobody else played. I mean, he heard stuff that it wasn't guitaristic. It was how
Absolutely not.
some guys you can tell they're playing guitar, they're not playing music. And I don't mean to be cruel, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And so his stuff was like, whoa, nobody moves. Well, how am I gonna? Where's
Yes.
that finger gonna go? How am I gonna do
Exactly.
that? But that's what made it so brilliant.
And he actually talks about that in an interview. There's a nice interview out there where he says something to the effect of, "I'm not a guitarist; it's just a tool."
Right.
I get it. I relate to that. I mean, I love guitar, but it's not like I'm a guitar freak as much as I am the music.
And the music, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
A teacher that I had said to me, Wes just heard it and played it. It wasn't about the theory, wasn't about anything. It was just he heard it sound in his head and he played it. Now, that's what he said, and
I agree.
I don't have any reason to change that. So it's.
Oh, I think he, like the Masters, he led with the sound.
Right.
And there was a lot of talk. It used to be like, oh, Wes doesn't know any of, you could hear Wes would tell you the chords, or he could tell you those things, but he didn't. That was secondary. What's most important is the sound.
Right.
Now, for the rest of us mere mortals, it's nice to use theory as a stepping stone, as a tool to help advance our ears. Because your ears get to a certain point, theory could help it by. But yeah, Wes's ear, just like George, just like Benson, just like all of my heroes.
I've been telling people for a long time that written music theory, all of that, I'm going to equate it to hiking. When you get the map, the topo out, and you can see, okay, well, there's the creek, there's the hill, there's the this, there's the that, and this is where we're going to, that's a 2-dimensional map of what you're going to experience.
Yeah.
But look up, it's not the 3-dimensional. It's not the music itself. Yeah. It's just the map.
Yeah, right on. That map doesn't have any sounds of birds, and it doesn't feel the breeze going across your face. It doesn't have the smell of pine. And I mean, how many other things?
You're smelling when I'm baking, my friend. You're smelling when I'm baking. So let's because we don't have a whole lot of time, and I want to make sure we talk about your record. Okay, sure. So who's on the record?
Okay, we got it's a septet.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 3 horns, and a little bit the hook of the record, which I should have mentioned, is that for your listeners that don't know, or maybe they all know, Wes Montgomery, one of the things Wes Montgomery was famous for was his chord solos, his 4-note chord solos.
Mm-hmm.
So he would literally play 4-note chords, but play them in a sequence, play them very quickly.
Do you have a guitar close by?
Oh yeah, I think that my background might mess it up a little bit. But let's see what's going on here.
Oh, that's got enough output to, you don't need to plug it in. It's probably got
Can
plenty.
Is it coming through, or am I blocking it?
No, you got plenty.
So Wes might play these 4-note chords. Play them in a sequence. So so part of the project was I took these chord solos, some of Wes's most famous chord solos, and assigned 1 horn for each note on the guitar. With some, it took some finagling because it didn't always work exactly. We had to switch it up. And what we call those in jazz, I'm sure you know, but in case your listeners don't know, that's a soli, S-O-L-I. So we took Wes's solo and we all played it together. So basically arranged his guitar solos for the horns. And so we took and became some of the solis, some of his most famous solis. So from like West Coast Blues, Mr. Walker, Fried Pies. And so that's part of the hook of, so that the record has the solis, but of course it's also got arrangements of all the heads. And I'll tell you about that too. And so you had asked who's on the record. We have three horns.
Right.
Victor Garcia is a fantastic trumpet player. I'm gonna gush about all these guys. I don't know if that's okay.
Yeah.
Victor is just.
You got a minute or two? Go ahead.
Okay, so Victor's amazing, a powerhouse musician and arranger. He arranged 2 of the melodies. Of our 10 songs, I arranged 7 of the melodies. Victor did 2, and then Chris Madsen, who's another monster musician. He's a saxophonist. He's actually a Juilliard grad, and we almost lost him to New York. He was doing really well out there, but he came back, luckily for us, in Chicago. He arranged Far West. And we have Greg Ward on alto, who's, I don't know if you know Greg, just a beautiful player, amazing, another monster musician, very free spirit, as well as like another driving force. Mm-hmm. And our rhythm section is George Flutis, who I mentioned, Tom Vaitzis on piano, who's a real staple in Chicago. He feels the beat just like George does, so he's part of that wave. As is our bassist Christian Dillingham, who's a band leader too. So he's really great. So I got to handpick some favorite guys in Chicago.
Right. And so is the record out right now? Is it been released?
Yeah, it's streaming now, and then I think the official CD release is September 16th, but it's available now. But I think the very official date, it's being sent around. It's hitting the radio already. I'm hearing. I got it. Which is really thrilling.
Is there one track that they're jumping on? Who's the radio jumping on?
Yeah, I've been trying to find that out. Well, our single was SOS because it has the most snaking lines and 8 bars of flutus right up front. Wes, as far as playlists go from the streaming, these curated playlists from Apple. I guess it's. I'm new to this world.
Yeah, we all are. Even they are. Everybody.
Good point. But I think they've chosen SOS and West Coast Blues. I think 4 on 6. Oh, and Jingles. They've been playing Jingles on our public radio here in DCB here in Chicagoland area.
Very cool. You know, I was going to say something else that a lot of people that have done West records, you know, there's a lot of people who have done West records, and they lean all over the octave thing. I mean, you know, they just octave, which is, you know, that's quintessential West. But, you know, West's single note line work was like the genius. You know, that was like, you know, that's what we were talking about earlier. What the hell's he doing? and you're playing a mostly single note line type stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
we do octaves I have a few of those solis that I mentioned.
Right.
We took a couple of Wes's octave solos and made it into a soli. But I think I really love Wes's octave playing too. I don't want to
we all do.
it, but
we all do. But it's been done, and it's great to hear it because, you know, it's great stuff, of course. But I want to emphasize to listeners who are new to this that, you know, the stuff that Wes just blows me away on, other than the obvious is the octaves, but his single note line stuff and his 4-note chords. So, I mean, all that stuff is like crazy.
I agree.
And this record has got a boatload of it all over it. And so if you want to, you know, check out Wes in a new way, man, I really think you need to. The name of the record is?
It's the name of the record and the band name, Tim Fitzgerald's Full House.
There you go. I mean, how do you beat that? That's great. Well, listen, we only got another minute or so left. Is there something else you want to add? The book where can they find the book?
Sure. Well, the book, it's certainly on Amazon and all those kind of places.
And the name of the book is?
Jazz 625. But the best place to get the book is westmontgomerymusic.com. Okay. Yeah, right. And actually you can get the record there too. We have some pre-release copies up there. westmontgomerymusic.com. It's got the book and also some pre-release copies.
Listen, man, I wish you all the luck. Stay in touch with us.
Thanks for having me.
Bob Bakert with Tim Fitzgerald. The new record is
Tim Fitzgerald's Full House.
All right. And you can pick it up anywhere, really.
WestMontgomerymusic.com.
West Montgomery. Thanks, man.
Thank you
All right,
sincerely.
brother. Sincerely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.